Hi, Jennifer Stewart here, and I'm so happy to have with me today Iben Sandahl as part of my iShine Bright series. And Iben is an internationally renowned public speaker, a best-selling author, a psychotherapist, and an educator. So that is quite a spread of background. She has more than 20 years of experienced insight into child psychology and education, which in a most natural way anchor the Danish way of practicing parenthood. And I love that philosophy. I can't wait to talk about it today. Her work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the Huffington Post, Salon, Psychology Today, many publications. That's beautiful. And her main mission is to help parents raise happy and confident children, which is a mission near and dear to my heart. So I'm so glad to have you on today. Iben, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this.
I'm so glad to chat with you because I know that your focus on the Danish way is something that will really help more and more parents and then children as they learn to understand it more about the deep connections and everything that goes with that. So I always like to chat. What got you started in wanting to share this way of parenting with others?
Well, I believe that by sharing my knowledge and experiences with other people, not only with my friends and closest relatives, but with everyone who have an interest in life in general and has a big, that it will have a big positive impact on all of us. So instead of a world divided into us and them, I find it important to connect and find similarities instead. And that is a source, and a source to this is by sharing stories from my country, from my life as a parent, as a mom, as a psychotherapist, as a teacher, and as a child myself. And yeah, so when people recognize themselves in my workings, I think that we will connect because of our shared values, and we won't feel alone or sad being who we are. So we will know that there are other people around the world who have similar experiences, and that's why I stepped into this beautiful journey of writing.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think that's very important because I think when people want to begin on maybe a little bit different of a parenting journey than is popular for most people, it's nice to know that there's other people out there who also have our same values and can relate. And then we can go to with questions and just to have that community is beautiful. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so important.
I'm so glad that you've been on this journey. It's wonderful. And I know I think one of the biggest things that really draws me to the Danish way of parenting, that whole viewpoint, is the idea of having deeper connections and slowing down because our world is so fast paced. Right. I mean, it's constantly like, okay, what are we going to sign up for next? What are we going to do now? What are we going to, at least I know, in where we live, and I think that it's hard to connect with children if we are constantly so busy and they're so busy. So, what are some ways that you might offer to parents to be able to slow down and create those important connections?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that it's a worldwide tendency, this hectic way of living. And secondly, I think um, it's a matter of making a decision. So we have to establish a balance between doing and being. So because of our society and all this doing, it is much more valued than being. So we are hectic and we're doing a lot of things, and I find being something that we should take more seriously, because that's where we can find the missing link to connect, how to connect to our children on a closer level. I think that if we had better contact with ourselves, first of all, we're better at just being present in the present, and releasing the urge to be in control of everything around us, we would experience a greater sense of freedom and gratitude. and our children, they would learn that their inner strength would exist in themselves and not in all that they do. So, so peace and time for immersion is a fundamental need, human need, I would say, which I think we must pay attention to creating in our children's life. And our children's hectic life, mainly, we have to remember that reflects our hectic life and our inability to calm down. So I believe that we have to start with ourselves. So if I'm hectic, my children will become hectic. So it's actually not that difficult, I think, because we we sometimes think that, hey, slowing down is very difficult in this hectic world, but I think that we just have to remember what it's all about. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but we can connect and we can calm down with our children with just by playing with them inside or outside. We can just sing with them, and it does something good for the whole of our body and mind. So we can also make a priority list to make it clear what makes us happy and what we can live with or without. That's also a very good idea to see, are there anything that we can take away in our life to make it not that hectic. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, so many amazing nuggets you just shared there. I love how you mentioned, slowing down to be a human being instead of a human doing, right? And I think it's hard because our society is so based upon what people do. What are your accomplishments? What trophies have you gotten? What grades have you gotten? And as opposed to who we really are on the inside. And I think that's such an important concept that you shared, that yes, definitely.
Yeah, but we can see that so many children and adults, they're not happy. They are having a lot of issues. So we're doing something wrong, and we can't take away our society's hectic life right now. We can't change the bigger surroundings, but we can change what's going on in our home, in our families. And I do believe that it is kind of the missing link. We don't think about it because we're just in the pace of everything, what everybody else do, and so on. But we have to like step back and have much more awareness of the being.
Yes, no, I think that's beautiful. And I love how you mentioned it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing that you have to do. Just take a moment, play together, go for a walk, sing. I love that you mentioned those things. That's beautiful. I mean, anybody can do that.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the point of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then if we slow down, not only are we an example for our child, but then hopefully it will open up the space for our child to slow down and to listen to themselves and hear their own inner voice. Because if we have them constantly running around all day, then they're not going to have that moment, that space to hear whatever is coming up from the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they needed to digest everyday life's experiences as well.
Yeah, no, and I love that you mentioned that, okay, we can't control society, right? It's just going to be what it's going to be. We're here. But we can control our family life and inside of our home. So, and I think that's one of the main points of the Danish style as well, is to make the house, right, a very comforting, safe place. If you could share a bit about that, maybe.
Yeah, because I know, but I mean, if our children have to be safe and feel safe, and they can't in this hectic world, the society, so where else should they feel safe than home? I mean, so that's so important that we lift the responsibility of doing that and making that our home and our family a safe place. And we can do that by creating small oases, small spaces where our children can sit and read and just lie on the floor and they play by themselves. I mean, it's not something very, uh, it's not a big deal. It, I mean, children, they will find out a way for themselves anyway. It's just in our mind that we think that we have to buy this and we have to do this. But I mean, less is better because they have their imagination and I mean, they are actually just finding a way to live, to be here, and to find a way for them to just live in the best way. So we don't have to do much. They just need our presence, and they need to feel safe and good at home, and that's all.
Yeah, no, I love that because I think parents do. It's that fear that if you don't provide whatever the best toys or the best activities, that somehow you're failing your child's development, right? And every parent, they love their kids and they want to give them the best. But I think it's so nice to know that oftentimes the best is actually not doing those things.
Yeah, because I mean, none of us, when we look back, we won't remember not necessarily the Lego or the little bicycle or whatever that we have in our room and which we could play with as children, but we remember the special moments we shared with our parents when we were the special environment, the special feelings. So that's what children they need. All the other things that's up in our head.
Yes, no, it's so true. So I currently run a preschool, and we have a moment in the class every day where the children pass around a little microphone and they share what they're happy about. What are you happy about today? And I almost every child, the things they will say are my mom and my dad and their pet and their sister.
Yeah.
And their brother.
It's not that difficult.
I know. I wish that the parents could hear every day what they say because it's just, yeah, they're happy for you. You might have just taken them to Disneyland, but they will mention you.
No, exactly. But they love when you snuggle them at the nighttime, sleeping time, bedtime. Sorry, and having this special moment where you look in their eyes, and that's what matters.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I know it's, I think it's nice for people to hear the word. Is it Huga? Is the way you say that?
Yeah.
Right? And this is the idea of creating the space in your home, right? Having that special time, quiet time. So, yeah.
It is a special, well, it is this Danish phenomenon who has become really famous worldwide. But and it can be very difficult to explain to others because Hygge has a special invisible energy, I would say, which is rooted in something in between you and the other, and some kind of contact and the desire to be together. So like a state of mind or something like that, where you feel connected and filled with proximity and shared values. So it is just chemistry and cohesiveness, curiosity, everything that you like, and the time that you spend together. So yeah, I think it's in this hectic world, there isn't much room for this reflection and intimacy which Hygge provides, and because we're too busy not to fail, even though that researchers and have found that stress shrinks the brain in areas connected with emotion and biological functions, I think. And I think that Hygge is something that can actually change that 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 state of going down the cycle, the cycle. Because when we feel connected to others, it gives us meaning and purpose to all of our lives. And without the interaction from and support from others, I don't think that we can be truly happy as a whole person. And that's why Hygge is so important to remember as a concept or as a phenomenon to bring into all families around the world.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think the reason it's hard to explain is it's not an exact a science. It's more of a feeling, an emotion. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
It-
no, it's beautiful though. I love that. And one of the other things I know you've focused on is the concept of reframing.
mhm.
And I think this is something that is so beautiful for parents because we can focus on the negative things and the negative aspects, or we can take this other approach. If you could explain that a bit to our listeners.
Okay. So, as parents, we often end up in situations where we feel tested and powerless and reluctant in relation to our children and their behaviors. So that we throw ourselves into judgmental and defining sentences like, she's simply so stubborn and unruly. If we say that to a 3-year-old with a negative and judgmental undertone, the child collects it to other times she had received something similar in the same tone. And these negative and defined identity stories about being stubborn or unruly, she takes into adulthood as a definition of her identity. So the way she's spoken to is therefore crucial for the self image she develops. So our reality and our understanding are created with the language we use. Therefore, all changes require a change in our language. And reframing is about being able to nuance an already locked or negative thought pattern. And it is a significant tool for creating greater happiness and satisfaction for yourself and your child through the use of this language. There's so much research and so on that shows that the ability to reformulate a stress situation, a family conflict, a negative situation, hysterical child, and so on, that can change our overall satisfaction and self image. So instead of saying, um, she can't do this, something like that, you should instead say, she's not there yet, or you are not there yet, honey, instead of, why can't you do it? Or when she says, I can't do this, she said, no, you're not there yet. And or you can say, she's so touchy. With that could be reframed into, um, be glad. She's so good at tuning into her own and others' feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I know you call the terrible twos, but we call it the boundaries age.
Okay.
That's also a definition. So it's just a matter of how we use our language to define something more positive for our children. So they grow when we believe in them and when we give them confidence. And we do that so much by the words and by our language we use and how we approach them. So
Yeah.
it's can be difficult to explain, but that's an
No,
idea.
I think you did a wonderful job. I think that that's so important for all of life. I mean, as adults, we can choose how we view things. And definitely, I think the words that we share with our children, like you said, I mean, they hear that and maybe they will internalize it, whether or not we're meaning for them to. And I think it's important to know, like you said, that they will carry those thoughts about themselves along with them as they grow up. So we want to share with them, yes, that they're growing in those areas. It's not that they're bad at something or anything like that.
We do it so much all the time, not intentionally, but
Right.
if we actually listen to when our children speak, we will hear that they already define themselves in a specific way, and they do that mostly because of what they have heard us tell them. So it really matters, and I see so many children in my private practice all the time who says, I'm like this and I'm like that. Well, it's not, and it's not the positive things they are telling me. It's all the bad things. So yeah, we have a big responsibility in choosing our wordings in that most positive or nuanced way.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think that's very important because we want them to grow up to be the best versions of themselves and to feel good so that then they can tap into their talents and share them as opposed to feeling bad about themselves so that they kind of close down, right, instead.
But
So,
I mean, it's because we get tricked by something we see in them. So instead of like separating ourselves from what we see in them, we kind of do the opposite.
yes.
We kind of tell them that they are wrong by doing what they do instead of saying, I get tricked by this because it does something with me. It reminds me about something from myself. And you are good enough as you are. You're perfect. I like it. I like you. You are my little star, whatever. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's beautiful. I mean, that's something else I think is so important is to connect with our kids enough so that they feel loved no matter what. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to. There's the idea of unconditional love. So yes, if we can share with our children that we love them no matter what, that it doesn't matter if they make a mistake or if they're not perfect at everything. I think that's one of the most important things we can do.
Exactly. I absolutely agree. I mean, connection isn't about the amount of time we use together. I mean, I believe that loving and care and vulnerability pave the way for meaningful relationships. And this is to be found within ourselves as parents. We have to remain true to our own beliefs and take the time to remember what's really important to us. So, so it means that we do not have to sit on the floor and look at what our children are playing or play with them continuously. We can easily walk around and do things on our own and still be actively present. Uh, I always use 15 minutes with my children when I pick them up in kindergarten, where I was just available for them on the floor. And they could, when they were very small, and they could crawl on me, and we could play and do something like that together. It doesn't have to take a long time. The one thing that we just have to remember is that what I believe can help us to connect with our children every day is having eye contact. So many of us are very stressed and have a lot of things to do, so we forget to look our children in their eyes. So that's also a way to, connect with our children to make sure that they know that we see them, that I'm here, I look at you, and there's so many things that we can do that doesn't really require a lot of our time and energy, and it doesn't have to be really difficult. This connection, it's just about, taking the time for only like a short time to connect. It's not about the time, it's really about how we connect and if we are present as parents. That's what I really wish for every children they should feel every day.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I mean, I think that's important because now in our society, right, we always have our phone with us. And I think oftentimes, unintentionally, we think we're hanging out with our child because we're sitting in the same room or near them, but we're scrolling and we're reading our emails and we're replying to messages and we're not really connecting with them. And they can sense that. They know. Like you said, simply is looking them in their eyes. They're important enough that we're going to stop all of our busyness and give them our full attention.
We have to remember we are our children's most important role models. So they will do what we do. And if we have our eyes deep down in our phones, they will do the same. And then eventually we will start arguing with them and want them to not be on the phone that much. But they're just doing what we have shown them to do. I mean,
Right.
we have to, I mean, I, I often say that parenting isn't much about our children, it is much more about ourselves. So, and I truly believe in that, because I mean, we are the starting point from everything regarding our children. So, no, we have to stay calm and just, I mean, everybody knows or recognizes the feeling of feeling really seen. I mean, it doesn't require that much, but we know that when people are not present, we can feel it immediately. And our children, they are just clever. We
Yeah.
have to remember that. I always say, children, they are so clever that we really don't know how much, but they sense and feel everything. So yeah, that's a good reminder.
I know that puts a little bit of pressure on parents, I guess.
Well, that's right. But I mean, it's just a good reminder. I don't want to
Yeah,
point
I know.
like that, but I mean, I just see it every day that the children like, I knew that.
Yeah.
They tell me, well, about the parents or something like that. Well, we knew that, but
Yeah.
or the parents are like, you did? I mean, so
They're on to us.
exactly. But no, it's yeah, that's so beautiful. Yeah.
No, that's good. And one of the other things I saw that you have addressed sometimes is helping kids deal with, speaking about stress, dealing with stress and anxiety when we're in this busy world. What are some simple things that you can offer to parents to help kids deal with our world?
Well, first of all, by being calm ourselves and not freaking out all the time. And again, we are the role models and need to be steady and someone safe for them to lean on. So so I have taught my children to take a deep breath from very little love, and that is, well, it's not it doesn't have to be like really yoga something, but I mean, teaching our children how to breathe is actually a really really helpful exercise to help them to calm down when they feel scared or anxious or whatever that arises, because things will happen, and it will happen that they feel some kind of bad feelings.
Sure.
So
What does that look like practically? What do you say to your children?
yeah, I say to them that they have to, when they inhale, they have to count to 5 in
Okay.
the head. So they're counting to 5 with the a closed mouth. So when they breathe in, so they're counting inside the head for 5, and then they are holding their breath while they're counting for 5 in their head as well, and then they exhale slowly, counting to 10.
Okay.
So that's what I've taught them.
Sure.
So that's like a slow breathe, deep breathe, and they, well, now they're teenagers and they still do it every night when they're going to fall asleep. So it's just a way to calm down everything and get more relaxed in the whole body, because we're so much in our head all
Right.
the time, and our children as well. So I like the thought of connect our mind with our body, and just to give it a little bit of awareness. I also sometimes do this scanning, body scanning,
Mm-hmm.
like can you put your attention to your feet, and are they heavy and relaxed, and there are a lot of things to do, but yeah, and then I also think that it's just important that we acknowledge our children's feelings. So if they feel afraid, or something like that, we shouldn't say, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Come on, be a man or whatever. I'm not into that. No matter what, we have to remember that small children, they still have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts as well. So by acknowledging their feelings at first, saying, so I can see that you feel very scared right now. I don't think it must be really nice right now for you. Is that how you feel? And they say, yes, it is. And then I'll say, you can come sit with me here for a while, and we can just sit here together. So showing your child that you can embrace their feeling, they will learn how to embrace it themselves, and how to stay in the feeling, and also teach them that feelings are not something bad. They're just feelings, like all kind of feelings. So and we tend to believe that we have to fix everything immediately, but our children, they don't ask us to do that. That's something that we think. So because we don't want our children to feel bad, but actually they don't ask us. So we should just listen, stay present, be aware, and stay close to them and connect with them.
And I can hear some parents saying that, if you're allowing those emotions, that some parents might fear that they're encouraging those emotions. Then I think that's the reason why people are often like, oh, don't do, you're fine, it's fine. I think they're worried, it's fear, always out of fear, right? That somehow they will grow those emotions in their child. And what would you say to that?
I would say that they will only grow if they don't get out in the space. I mean, I think that most of us know the feeling of when we have cried a lot, giving time to cry and cry and cry, and suddenly we are finished crying. We're done. We don't have any more tears, and we're ready to move on somehow. It's the same. Giving space and room for feelings to just be there, to allow all feelings. We don't make them bigger. We make them bigger if they don't get out in the air, and that is really, really the truth. Yeah. It can be scary for us as parents, and it's probably because that we don't know exactly how to handle those kind of feelings. But if we could just learn that we shouldn't do anything, right? I mean, we shouldn't do anything like that. We should just stay close to our children.
Just be there.
Just be there and let them know that they are not alone, that we are here. We're here to take care of them, and just so they don't feel alone.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that will go away again while the feeling is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And I think our time is about up even, but I wanted to ask for people that want to learn more about you and about some of your amazing resources. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can find me on my website, Iben.com, Ibensandahl.com. Okay. And I'm also on Instagram, calling the Danish Way on Instagram. I have a lot of things on my website, which is also free for download, and I post every day on Instagram. I think that's and of course on Facebook as well. But those 3 platforms are probably the best way to.
And all of your books are listed on your website, and then probably for sale on Amazon as well.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, they are.
Perfect. Great. Well, beautiful. Well, I hope our listeners got to take away some good points that they can try in their parenting journey, and see how it goes for them. So and create those deeper connections and allow their children to grow and fully into themselves. So I appreciate you sharing all of this with the listeners today, Iben. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have a beautiful day.
You too.